Want to be clear about something before I start. I did not believe in Ouija boards. I thought they were cardboard and plastic. I thought the planchette moved because of shaking hands and overactive imaginations. I was 23 years old, I was at a birthday party, and I agreed to use one because everyone else was doing it, and I didn't want to be the person who was too afraid of a board game. That was my first mistake. My second mistake was asking it something real. What followed that night followed me home, and for 6 weeks it lived in my house. I tried everything to make it leave. Salt lines, sage, every paranormal remedy the internet offered. Nothing worked. Until the night my neighbor, a 70-year-old woman who had lived through things I will never understand, handed me her Bible, opened to a specific page, and told me to read it out loud. No matter what I heard, no matter what I saw, no matter what happened in that room, read it, and do not stop. This is what happened. Act 1. The party. It was October. My friend Sarah's birthday party. An apartment in the city. Someone had bought a Ouija board as a prop. The kind you find in toy stores, mass-produced, shrink-wrapped. I remember laughing at it. We sat in a circle around 11 p.m. 5 of us, candles lit for atmosphere, laughing and half serious. The first few questions were ridiculous. Is anyone there? What's my ex's middle name? Am I going to be rich? The planchette moved slowly at first. I assumed someone was pushing it. I kept my fingers light, barely touching, to make sure it wasn't me. It wasn't me. Then Marcus, sitting across from me, said we should ask something serious. He said, "Is there a spirit in this room with us right now?" The planchette moved to yes. Everyone laughed. Still a game. Still funny. Then Marcus said, "And I wish he hadn't. If you're real, prove it." The candles went out. All 3 of them, at the same time. No wind. No one near them. The room went completely silent. And then the planchette, with no one touching it, moved to the number 6. 3 times. Someone screamed. Someone else knocked the board off the table. The lights came back on. Everyone laughed it off. Called it a trick of the mind. We packed up and went home. I was the only one who noticed that when the board fell, the planchette had not fallen with it. It was still on the table, pointing directly at me. Act 2. What came home? I got home around 1 a.m. My apartment was dark. Normal. I made tea, went to bed, told myself the candles had been a coincidence. I woke up at 3 a.m. Not from a dream. Not from a sound. I woke up because something in the room had changed. The air was different. Colder. Like the air before a thunderstorm. That specific pressure. But inside my bedroom. Inside my chest. I lay completely still and looked at the ceiling. And in the corner of my eye, at the foot of the bed, something was standing there. Not fully formed, not solid, more like the shape of absence. A place where the darkness was denser than the rest of the room. I told myself it was my coat on the door. I told myself my eyes were adjusting. I turned on the lamp. The corner was empty. I left the lamp on for the rest of the night. The next morning I found 3 scratches on my left arm. Parallel lines. I had no memory of making them. My nails were too short to have made marks that deep. Act 3. 6 weeks. Let me tell you what 6 weeks of this looks like. Week 1. Shadows at the edges of rooms. The feeling of being followed from room to room. My dog refusing to enter the hallway. Week 2. Sounds. Knocking from inside the walls at 3 a.m. My name, whispered, from a room I was not in. Both times, nothing there. Week 3, I stopped sleeping. I tried everything I found online. Salt across the doorways. Burned sage until my apartment smelled like a campfire. Played Christian music. Someone in a forum said it helped. The music made it worse. Whatever was in my apartment, it did not like the music. The knocking got louder when I played it. The shadows thickened. It was reacting, which meant it was real. Week 4, I called Marcus. He laughed. He said he hadn't experienced anything. He said I was scaring myself. I hung up. Week 5, I found 3 more scratches, this time on my shoulder. This time arranged differently, not parallel, a shape. I will not describe the shape here. Week 6, I sat in my kitchen at 2 a.m. and I cried for the first time since it started. Not from fear, from exhaustion. I had run out of options. I had run out of explanations. And I was completely, utterly alone in this. My neighbor knocked on my door the next morning. Her name was Agnes, 71 years old. She had lived in the building for 30 years. She looked at me for a long moment, the way someone looks at a person when they already know the answer before asking the question. Then she said, "How long has something been in your apartment?" Act 4, Agnes. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting. She didn't look surprised. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Whatever you opened that night, it attached itself to you because you were the one who doubted. The others believed enough to be afraid. Fear closes doors. Doubt leaves them open." She went to her apartment and came back with a Bible, well used, pages soft from years of turning. She opened it to Psalm 91. "Tonight," she said, "you go into every room in your apartment. You stand in the center, and you read this out loud from beginning to end. Do not stop if something happens. Do not stop if you hear something. Do not stop for any reason. When you finish, you say one more thing. You say, 'This place belongs to God. You are not welcome here. Leave.'" I asked her if it would work. She looked at me the way my grandmother used to look at me when I asked foolish questions. "It has always worked," she said. "The only question is whether you believe it enough to let it." The night, the words, the end. That night, I walked into every room. The kitchen, the hallway, the bedroom. In each one, I stood in the center. And I read Psalm 91 out loud. My voice shook in the hallway. The temperature dropped when I reached the bedroom. Something knocked, hard, from inside the closet when I reached verse 4. I did not stop. "You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness." The knocking stopped. I finished the psalm. And then, in a voice steadier than I expected, in a voice that surprised even me, I said, "This place belongs to God. You are not welcome here. Leave." Complete silence. The kind of silence that isn't empty. The kind that feels full, settled, like a room after a storm has passed and the air has finally cleared. I stood there for a long time. My dog came into the bedroom, for the first time in 6 weeks, and sat down at my feet. That was enough. I returned Agnes's Bible the next morning. She smiled when she opened the door, like she already knew, like there had never been any doubt about how it would end. I bought my own Bible that afternoon. Psalm 91 is marked with a ribbon. I haven't needed it since, but I keep it close, because I learned something that night that I will carry for the rest of my life. Some doors should never be opened, but when they are, there is always something stronger than whatever comes through.